Hello guys and welcome to the channel. My name is Andres and you're currently watching the 5th video in the music theory series. If you would like to watch the previous ones, you can click here or use the link in the description. Today we will talk about the famous 7th chords. So let's get started. We remember from the previous video that the way to build a triad is by doing what is known as harmonizing a scale. In simple words, we take any one note of a scale and we choose the next two notes, but skipping every other note in the process. For example, in the C major scale, we take C, then skip D, take E, skip F, and then take G. This is also known as stacking thirds. We can continue adding notes and take a fourth one. The note that we would take would then be the 7th from our starting note. By carrying out this process, starting with each note of the major scale, we obtain 4 types of 7th chords. There are more types of 7th chords that we will not get from a major scale, but are found by harmonizing other scales, such as the harmonic minor scale. Don't worry about that for now, we'll talk more about this and other scales in future videos. To avoid confusion, we're going to look at all 7 chords based solely on their interval distribution, and not on the scales from which these chords originate. Whenever I talk about a 7th chord that we would find in a major scale, I'll let you know. Also, another interesting thing, the 3rd and the 7th of a chord, they play a huge role on the chord's personality, if you want to call it that way, identity, and function. So just keep that in mind, as these 2 notes, they are very important. Also, another thing, during these videos, we're learning the basic concepts. So there are exceptions to what I'm saying here. There are differences, there are other things, but first we need to cover the basics and then we can start reaching out to other topics that are a little bit more complicated. Okay, so just bear with me that we're going step by step so we can learn the basics, all right? Okay, with that out of the way, now let's take a look at 6 types of chords with a 7th. In the description, I left you a PDF with a table with all chord structures that we're going to see today, so I recommend you download it and have it with you. The first one is the major 7 chord. The intervals necessary to build this chord correspond to a root or tonic, a major 3rd, a perfect 5th, and a major 7th. We are adding a major 7th to a major triad. Using C as an example, we would have the following major triad: C, E, and G. We then add the major 7th, counting from the C, and obtain the following notes: C, E, G, and B. This chord is known as the C major 7 chord. Note here that when you hear the words major and 7 together, the word major is referring to the 7, not to the major triad. There is also a minor chord with a major 7th, which we'll see in a moment. You'll usually find the major 7 chord written in one of the following ways, as you can see on screen. When harmonizing the major scale, we get a major 7 chord on the 1st and 4th degree of the scale. In C major, those would be the notes C and F, and the chords C major 7 and F major 7. The minor 7 chord is built using the following intervals: a root, a minor 3rd, a perfect 5th, and a minor 7th. These intervals correspond to a minor triad and a minor 7th. Using C as a starting point, we would then have the following notes: C, E flat, G, and B flat. We can find this chord written with one of these representations, as you can see on screen. And we can find them in the major scale by harmonizing the 2nd, 3rd, and 6th degree. We then get a D minor 7, E minor 7, and an A minor 7. To build this chord, we use the following intervals: a root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, and a major 7th. Therefore, a minor triad plus a major 7th. Using C as our starting point, we would have the following notes: C, E flat, G, and B. We can find this chord written with one of these representations. And this isn't a chord that you would get by harmonizing the major scale. Again, we will take a look at other interesting scales in future videos. The dominant 7th or 7 chord plays a huge role in Western music. We'll explore its functions and importance when we talk about functional harmony, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notifications when that video goes up. And if it already is, then you can click here. The intervals that make up this chord are the root or tonic, a major 3rd, a perfect 5th, and a minor 7th. Using C as a starting point, we would then have the following notes: C, E, G, and B flat. This chord is represented as follows, and we can get this chord from the major scale by harmonizing the 5th degree. I'm referring a lot to the major scale since it is one of the most important tools we have to understand music theory, and one on which a lot of things are based on, but this does not mean that you can only get a dominant 7 chord from the major scale. The diminished 7th chord. This one has a very dissonant and spicy sound in my opinion. The intervals needed to build this chord are a root, minor 3rd, diminished 5th, and a diminished 7th. Probably the diminished 7th seems a bit strange to use since technically a double diminished 7th, so reducing a whole step one of the intervals, in this case would give us a major 6th. However, we use the double diminished to indicate where the note comes from. Using C as a starting point, we would then have the following notes: C, E flat, G flat, and then a B double flat, which is actually an A. We, as I said, we use this just to know where the changes are coming from and how the chord is actually being built. We can find this chord written with one of these representations, as you can see on screen, and this is not a chord that we can build or get by stacking thirds on the major scale. The half diminished 7th chords, also known as minor 7 flat 5 chords, are built using the following intervals: a tonic or root, minor 3rd, diminished 5th, and minor 7th. Using C as a starting point, we would then have the following notes: C, E flat, G flat, and B flat. The most common representations of this chord would be as you are seeing on screen. And we can get this chord by harmonizing the 7th degree of the major scale. Last but not least, we have the augmented 7th chord. This chord has quite a dissonant sound and is formed using the following intervals: a tonic, major 3rd, augmented 5th, and a major 7th. Again, not to lose the habit, using C as a starting point, we would obtain the following notes: C, E, G sharp, and B. This one is represented in one of the following ways, as you can see on screen. And we cannot get this chord from the major scale. Each of these 7 chords has a very particular sound that greatly enriches harmony. I recommend taking a little time to listen to them and analyze them carefully. There are more types of 7 chords, however their use is very unusual and they're a little out of the focus of this video. 7th chords will be very important for the next video in the series, where we'll be talking about musical keys. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it. If you liked it a lot and you want to support my work, you can do so using the link in the description. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.